And while there's no change to the horror, no wiping away any of the wrongs, no diminishing the grief, we can finally express a deep sigh.
We have been robbed of a life with nieces and nephews and grandchildren, and with sisters to grow old with.
At one point, I'd given up on God, but He never gave up on me.
It was an emotional morning at Austin City Hall as grieving family members gathered to hear from Austin City leaders on the breakthrough in one of the city's most infamous cold cases, the 1991 yogurt shop murders. On December 6, 1991, what started as a fire investigation at the I Can't Believe It's yogurt shop that's off of Anderson Lane in North Austin evolved into a quadruple homicide case after first responders found bodies in the building. The victims, 13-year-old Amy Ayers, 17-year-old Eliza Thomas, 17-year-old Jennifer Harbison, and 15-year-old Sarah Harbison. Over the years, 4 men were accused of the murders, and 2 of the cases went to trial, with the men sentenced to life in prison and death row. But by the late 2000s, the court threw out those convictions. Last Friday, police announced they linked suspect Robert Eugene Brashears, who died by suicide in 1999, to the quadruple murder after analyzing DNA and ballistic evidence. At today's news conference, city and police officials detailed what led to the breakthrough in the 34-year-old case. We have reporter Brianna Hollis getting into the ballistic evidence and Eric Henrikson diving into the DNA evidence. And let's start with our coverage with Brianna Hollis, who joins us live now from Austin City Hall. Bri?
So I first want to provide some additional context that just expresses the magnitude of this announcement. The press conference was held inside City Council chambers when crime updates usually happen in a much smaller room inside the Austin Police Department. On top of that, the chambers were packed with cameras, not only from news crews, but documentary crews as well. Part of the catalyst to this breakthrough involved APD matching a bullet from the yogurt shop murders to a cold case in Kentucky with a similar MO.
Over 3 decades, 1991.
34 years.
3 decades bring a lot of change. Siblings who were just children when these 4 girls were murdered took the podium Monday as full-grown adults.
We have been robbed of a life with nieces and nephews and grandchildren, and with sisters to grow old with.
The city of Austin itself became a boomtown. The yogurt shop is no more, but nobody forgot the case.
Some of the only really physical evidence that was recovered was a spent .380 shell casing that was located in the floor drain.
In July, Detective Dan Jackson sent that bullet off to NIBIN, a network that can match shell casings from different crimes.
It had been put in there a couple times, but it had been a long time.
Can you explain that process and that lag, and also the techniques and technology that has changed since then to make sure we don't have 4 people more than likely wrongly accused so early on?
So it had been entered at least twice before. It's just that it had been several years, and the software had just gotten a lot better over the last few years. So it was a resubmission. This goes out to across the country. You know, if you've got old shell casings, resubmit them to NIBIN. We are getting hits in other cases already. Jackson
later explained the ballistics match ended up opening the door to additional DNA testing. At that point, police had the DNA, but no match. And that DNA did not link to any of the 4 people originally arrested in the case.
I think it was validation for our evidence collection that night.
Retired Detective John Jones, one of the original investigators on the case, sat in on Monday's announcement. He said he was never confident enough in some of the original confessions given by arrestees.
I'm not a confession kind of guy. I'm an evidence guy. Hey, we've got DNA. Hey, we've got ballistics. Evidence.
Police have long said 2 guns were used in the cold case killings, but Detective Jackson says the evidence still points solely to Brashears at this point because of the combination of this ballistics and DNA evidence and Brashears' MO of using 2 separate guns in other crimes, including one where he also tied up 4 women.
All of his crimes that we know of, he was alone in all of them, and he was able to accomplish things alone similar to what he did in Yogurt Shop.
Now, the district attorney's office says if APD's conclusions are confirmed, the office will apologize for its role in prosecuting those 4 original men arrested. It is important to note the current DA, Jose Garza, was not in office at the time. Jen, Daniel.
All right, Brianna Hollis, thank you so much. DNA testing was in its infancy at the time of these crimes. In the decades since the girls were killed, the technology has greatly improved.
KXAN's Eric Henrikson takes a closer look at how one type of DNA found only in men led investigators to this new suspect.
Across decades of searching, one fact remains clear.
The DNA story never changed.
Few DNA samples were collected on the night of December 6, 1991.
The evidence was subjected to fire and also fire suppression with all the water.
Investigators worked with the few samples available, including DNA collected from the victims. Those samples included YSTR, a short repeating sequence of DNA found exclusively on the Y chromosome.
This is genetic information on Y chromosomes are stable, and that way you can track the patrilineal line, father to son to son to son.
Dr. Robert Fury with St. Edward's University says this type of DNA is a very powerful tool for forensic scientists.
DNA technology is going really quick, and it's very powerful now, and it will keep going.
Austin police had a lab profile the YSTR DNA in 2018. Following a ballistics report that led detectives to Kentucky, detectives performed a manual search for YSTR records nationwide.
The actual comparison for the YSTR was actually through South Carolina.
That sample a 1-to-1 match for Robert Eugene Brasher's. Rachel Offline with DNA Labs International says that due to the small size and the damage, DNA from the crime scene was not eligible for the National DNA Database, CODIS. But changes to the minimum requirements for CODIS entry led to upgrades at labs across the country. City leaders said that after decades of work, the science makes them confident they have their man.
The results were the same. The DNA story never changed.
Eric Henrikson, KXAN News.
And before 2016, CODIS required 13 genetic markers for a sample to be included in the national database. Today, it requires 20.